Here we are again with the Goddess Effect with Mandy Morris and Sas Tetzlaff, and we are
Yay.
so grateful to have you here with us because we absolutely love this stuff and we love bringing it to you guys and helping you to create those shifts that will help you step into your goddess energy, because that's what it's all about: understanding and realizing that you are a living goddess just like the rest of us. Welcome to day 3. Today, we are going to explore transgenerational trauma based on gender and the effect it has on our energy. So, genderized transgenerational trauma means that just being a woman on this planet is going to give you negative energy charges that, even though we may pass laws and create global movements, you know what I'm talking about, these negative energy charges are sitting buried deep within our energy systems and even our collective DNA, because this is what happens when something happens to any of us, but especially when it happens to so many of us. It actually does change our DNA. And it doesn't matter what kind of household you were born into or your social or financial status, because of the universal law of one, we are all connected. And what happens to one sister happens to us all on an energetic level. And it doesn't just happen to us sisters, it happens to Mother Earth as well, because of the energetic grids that are copied from, we are a copy of the energetic grids in the earth, and they are then copied, they're replicated through the universe and the cosmos and beyond. So this is how we're all connected. Add in the fact that the abuse, and I'm going to use that word because that is what we're talking about, has been perpetuated for millennia. You can see how, unless we do the inner work, just doing a thing on TikTok isn't going to make a drop of difference. Pardon the joke there, but doing what do they call it, a splash mob, what do they call it when they get everybody out dancing and everybody's
Flash mob.
doing flash mob, thank you, talking about this stuff isn't enough. We have to do the work. Talking about it and creating dialogue is brilliant, but we have to do the work. So what is transgenerational trauma? It is where a collective group of people with something in common, so that can be geography, race, religion, etc., experience a tremendous trauma that results in that group setting up certain survival strategies to try and stay safe. These strategies get passed down to subsequent generations who share until they become ingrained and habitual, even if they do not experience the trauma for themselves. It just gets set up and it becomes a blueprint. So the classic one is the Jews and the Holocaust, and generations later, their descendants are still affected by it. Survivors of the Holodomor, which was the Ukrainian famine created by the Russians, earthquakes, tsunami, etc. So, things like earthquakes and tsunamis, you can be from all walks of life, all kinds of backgrounds. You just happen to be in, if you like, the wrong place at the right time. And there are statistics are there for all of these examples. But when it comes to the systematic persecution of women over several hundred millennia, no one wants to talk about it. Why? Because 50% of the population haven't got a voice, and the other 50% have no interest in seeing anything change. And this is their own trauma. They believe it's normal. So it's all very well me banging on about this. What's the evidence that I can present to you about, well, how have we been abused? So as women, what are our survival strategies? We play small, we keep quiet, we have imposter syndrome, we self-sabotage, we people please, we self-sacrifice, we deflect attention. As soon as the spotlight comes on us, we find ways of, pointing at other people. Money issues, lack of autonomy and sovereignty, fear of the opposite sex, loss of our power, suppression of our wisdom, and that's just for starters. And I'm not saying we all exhibit all of these traits, but we do exhibit a fair amount of them in greater or lesser degrees, and often we don't even realize we're doing it. So in order to get the most out of this session, it's important to clear the way for the information that I'm about to show you to reach your subconscious as well as your conscious brain. And only then will it begin to be released. So I'm going to do a little bit of our short form goddess effect, because I've done this presentation in longer forms on many an occasion for many years actually, and quite often people don't even register what they're seeing because their survival strategies are so ingrained and so profound, they don't actually understand the images and what's going on, so that they can't actually start the clearing because they're in denial basically. So what I'm going to ask you to do is connect in with the present moment and set our intention for this workshop. So just close your eyes and draw in a few deep breaths. Don't start hyperventilating, please. Just breathe in and find your center. And a lot of people find that that's sort of in their heart area, might be in your gut area for you, but it's wherever you feel you can go for connection, reassurance, rebalancing yourself, finding your equilibrium. We all have a little place that we can go. And that little tiny flame of our soul essence exists there, whether we pay attention to it or not. So I'm going to ask you to just connect in with that as you breathe in and out. And as you breathe in what serves you, which is the air and the good energy. And as you breathe out, let go of what doesn't serve you. This is the purpose of our breath. It is actually energy work. We breathe in what we need and we let go of what we don't need. And when we connect to our breath, when we're doing energy work, we kind of duplicate this process to let go of the energy resistances and reversals that we don't need. And I'm just going to ask you to repeat either out loud or in your head. I reject and refuse any veils, imprints, and conditioning that prevent me from seeing the truth behind the images and the intentions of the patriarchal system to suppress my energy and true soul expression, and replace this with clarity, awareness, and expression of my innate wisdom, connection to my higher self, and access to my power with immediate effect. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in that clarity, awareness, and expression, and let go of any of the veils, the imprints, and the conditioning. And now set the conscious intention that what you are going to see in this workshop, you're going to see through the veils, you're going to have all of the clouds lifted, and you're going to see the energy underneath and what it was intended to do to you. And you're going to say, no, thank you, enough. And we will begin. Are we all good? Excellent. So all I want you to do to start with is have a look at this image. It's a classic. And just have a think about, what do you think's happening? We've got the cherubs, we've got the lovely scenery and the lovely clouds, and the maiden and the bull with the little wreath on. We've got the fish in the waters. You might even know what the painting is. I haven't yet had anybody who actually knows what this painting is. Some of the other ones do, but I haven't yet found anybody who actually knows what this painting is. Mandy knows, because you've been with me before on this, don't you? So are you aware, Karen, of what this painting actually is?
Not at all. It looks kind of familiar, but
yeah, it's very much of a genre, and it's very much of a kind of, this is sort of 15th century classic kind of, this is the way, the brush strokes. And when this this kind of painting is talked about, they talk about the mastery of the brush strokes and the way the light plays on the cloth, and the conjuring of you know, like the world that this young lady is existing in, you know, and her friends on the shore waving at her, you know. So what do you think about these images?
I don't know. The swan. It's not a man, is it? Is that the male representation, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well done. A lot of people know this story. It's Leda and the Swan, Leda. And it's about the subliminal message under the image. Both of these images were based on myths, stories that portray men as almighty and powerful. Goddesses are usually subservient to the male gods, or else plotting their downfall. Now, that first image we were looking at is called The Rape of Europa. They're not even trying to hide what the story is about. That is the title of the picture. And it's based on the story of, well, the Rape of Europa, where she is dragged away from her friends and raped by Jupiter in the form of a bull. It's not called the Romance of Europa. It's not called the Courting of Europa. It's not called the you know, equal discourse and supportive relationship based on equal respect of Europa and Jupiter. It's called The Rape of Europa. So Jupiter has taken the form of a bull. So it's not just rape. Let's throw in a good measure of bestiality while we're there. But wait, we've got to remember what the actual story is of Europa, the myth. So after she's raped by Jupiter, she becomes pregnant, and as a mortal, she gives birth to Minos. So Minos, Minos was the king of Crete, and what is recognized as the first European civilization. So, you know, they named an area of land after her. So all is not lost. It's okay, isn't it? Yeah, you get to birth civilization. So out of the act of rape came the birth of civilization. And this is what the message is under that thing, is that, you know, if you want to have fantastic things like civilization, where, you know, we can have commerce and shops and healthcare and, you know, all of these things that come with civilization, we can stop fighting with each other. We have to have rape in order for it to come about. Now, the second image is Leda and the Swan. It's another example of a god, Zeus, which is the Roman equivalent of Jupiter. And he's in animal form, again, raping a young woman. Okay, so these images hang on the walls of museums for centuries. I mean, literally, I think the Rape of Europa, I think, was painted in the 1500s. So for 500 years, these have hung in museums, being, you know, held up as paragons of you know, the best example of the craft of art and higher culture. And, you know, so all of these things are serving to suppress women and put them down, because how can we protest against the birth of civilization, things like culture and art, etc., etc. So we're already on the back foot. Now, this is another picture of Leda and the Swan that I think puts it in a little bit of a different image, and this is a slightly more modern image. So while researching for this presentation, I found no less than 19 versions of the tale of Leda, dating from an ancient Roman fresco in Pompeii, remember Pompeii, and a 3rd century mosaic right up to the mid-1940s. It's almost as if it had to be repeated ad nauseum in case it slipped from the public psyche, that it's okay for a god to take the form of an animal and come and rape a woman. It's perfectly acceptable. If you know anything about me, I don't trawl things for long. So 19 versions of the tale of Leda that just popped up really, really quickly. So on the surface, it looks like a pretty picture of an innocent girl communing with nature. Isn't that what we do? Where's the harm in that? But by using imagery, with such deep undertones. The dominance and oppression of women was kept in the forefront of the human narrative for millennia, disguised as art. Okay, so there wasn't really an alternative to this kind of image where your leader comes along with an axe and chops the head off the swan and like stuffs it and has it on a platter with, you know, a few veg and a few potatoes. We didn't have an alternative to this. And this went on for hundreds of years. And that is transgenerational trauma based on gender. But I haven't even scratched the surface yet. So here are the pictures from Pompeii and the 3rd century mosaic. So yeah, she's just wandering around saying hello to the swan. But everybody knows what the story is. The myths were, you know, the stories that were told before there was the Bible, and it was, you know, this was their culture was to tell these myths, and the myths always told about how the world was formed and how people were formed and how we, you know, live and commune with nature. Well, we do it by raping the women. So this is what we were told. So let's look at the why behind all this. And there is a thing called the gaze. And this is a thing, okay? I'm not making it up. So for centuries, women have been portrayed in the media, let's face it, because this was the media of the day, i.e. on the walls in galleries or in print, by men for other men to look at. Women were not part of this. They became the object of this media, not the subject. We were a thing. We have no voice. You know, we have no say, and we certainly didn't do the paintings. There are some exceptions, I will accept. We were owned by men, and this was by law. By law, we were the property of our men, and they could do what they wished with and to us. Many of the images fed a male fantasy of power, physical and sexual dominance, strength and possession, concepts that are missing from a female-based society. They showed the women mostly supine, available, obedient, defenseless, and passive. Basically, we were the unholy trinity of virgin, victim, or whore. They were the roles that we were given in art. And if we were up to something else, it was usually chopping some bloke's head off, poisoning some other fella, or plotting some chap's downfall. These were literally the roles we were given. Think of Salome asking for the head of John the Baptist. That is a very, very common theme for people to paint. Without going into more detail on this topic, because I really could, I could go on. I'll close it with a quote from Cecile Paul. Rape culture is defined as an environment in which rape is prevalent and in which sexual violence is normalized and excused in the media and popular culture, perpetuated through the use of misogynistic language, the objectification of women's bodies, and the glamorization of sexual violence, thereby creating a society that disregards women's rights and safety. It's defining manhood as dominant and sexually aggressive and womanhood as submissive and sexually passive. It's gratuitous gendered violence in movies and television. It's victim blaming and refusing to take rape accusations seriously. There are versions of the story that insinuate Leda welcomed Zeus the swan into her lap. This well-crafted erotic art, albeit beautifully painted, ticks all the boxes for perpetuating rape culture. And yet it hangs in our museums without explanation, without conversation. And after all these centuries, perhaps it's time to stand in front of these masterpieces and start asking the difficult questions. And we all know what those difficult questions are. Or maybe they're not even questions that we need to ask. Sorry, Cecile, but you know, maybe they're not questions we need to ask anymore, but we just need to put our foot down and say no, not anymore. Thank you very much. So it's just the rape images that created the trauma? No. There are countless images of passive, naked women feeding the male fantasy of sexual conquest, warnings of women as betrayers, untrustworthy creatures whose voices must be silenced, that have served as the subliminal conditioning of the patriarchal model. But it didn't stop there. Laws were passed banning women from education, rights to property, even their own bodies and their children. The list of crimes against us is a long one. So I make no apology for the fact that this might be making people feel a little bit uncomfortable, but we have to realize that this goes back so far. almost beyond sort of any kind of records. This is how they have kept us down, by sending out these subliminal messages all the time that if we are not, laying naked on a chaise longue, then we're not proper women. That is our role. Women were almost always depicted in passive decorative roles, with their breasts often juxtaposed or compared to fruit to be bought and sampled. And if women of colour were ever represented, which was rare, then they were invariably in lower class roles as servants, slaves, or exotic creatures, different, other, and owned, items of property, not people. So when we start to think of this, because what happens, the way we reflect on history is through the information we have. So when we look at the paintings of previous centuries, previous, reigns of monarchs, whenever we want to go and look at a time in the past, what do we have? We don't have recordings. We have paintings that hang on the wall. We have books. We have newspapers and literature. But art is the most prevalent one. It's the one that has survived the best. It's the one that gets preserved. And it's the one that also gets worshipped regularly. They print books about it. The people flock to museums to go and see these pictures, just to perpetuate the misogyny. And think about the traditional Western marriage ceremony. Your father walks you down the aisle and gives you away in marriage to your husband. We're still doing that. Don't get me wrong, I've been married in a church myself, I didn't know any better. Possession is passed from one man to the other. So what we're going to do is look at your own experiences and events in life that reflect the patriarchal treatment of women and how it all relates to you, because you know what we're like. We like to bring it back to you and us. How did that make you feel? Was any of that news to you, or were you aware of all that?
I don't think I was aware of it, but I have seen a lot of images, and indeed, I have my favorite painting. I'm Hull. The Ferrens Art Gallery in Hull.
Yeah,
my favorite painting in there is Sirens by Draper.
I know it.
I absolutely adore it, because I like. There are parts of the actual art that I like, but when you were talking about it, and I can see it from here, the copy that I have, just going, oh my god. Yeah. So it's making me look at things a lot differently. And Draper was a guy who drew and painted a lot of nudes. Yeah. And I think it's Draper. There's certainly an image that I've seen, because I got into Draper's work. And it might be him, or it might be of his ilk, where there is a naked woman chained to a rock. Helpless.
Yeah.
And very submissive and all that. Yeah. So it's making me, think about things in quite a different way now.
Yeah. But it's like Sass was saying, it's been normalized, and it's almost like we don't even question it, because we're trained to look at the brushstrokes or the art or the beauty or the color or the how it's been painted, rather than the actual subject. And it's hundreds and thousands of years of conditioning, isn't it?
Yeah. And briefly, to speak to that image that you're talking about, this in the Ferrens Art Gallery, it was painted in Victorian times. And the original story of the sirens are half chicken, half something else.
Half fish, half woman.
Yeah. But that didn't work well in Victorian society, because the Victorian women were starting to, kind of push back. So he painted it and painted them as beautiful women to say, watch out, guys. They're out there, those women. Those pesky women with their voices, and we mustn't listen to them. And they're blindfolded, aren't they? And looking away.
There's the guy who's chained to the mast of the ship.
Yeah. Powerful imagery. Really, I mean, you've got to admit, it's brilliant, isn't it? Very powerful.
It's very clever.
Very clever, and pardon the pun, they are masters at it. They really are. They know how to push
the subliminal thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm going to share something from my experience of this. I remember as a kid, my mum was a single mom at one point, and she had a really good job. My mum was a radiographer, and she wanted to put a deposit down and get a mortgage and buy a house. So she went along to the bank to apply for the mortgage, and they wouldn't let her have the mortgage unless her dad stood as guarantor. So off toddles my poor old granddad. And I remember my mum fuming about this. I mean, not about my granddad because he was lovely, but she was having a right old rant because she earned about 4 times what he did. Yeah, he was a butcher and had a little shop. You know, I mean, he was all right, he was doing well, but she was, you know, a superintendent radiographer. She was on a really high wage, and she'd been, the way she got the money for the deposit was she spent a spell in Iran working for, you know, an oil sheikh whose mother had got cancer and built an entire hospital and shipped all the machines out from Europe to equip this hospital. And he got the best of the best in to staff it. So my mum went out there and worked there and was paid shed loads of money. So she had a massive deposit for this thing, and they still wouldn't give her a mortgage.
I think for me, it was, I was in the IT industry, and I went into sales before I went into teaching. And the misogyny bit is like, I go to sales trainings, and I used to like wearing short skirts. I used to be a lot thinner than I am now. And one day I was at the end of the training, and a guy turned around, one of the trainers turned around, he goes, "Oh, it's really nice having you here, Mandy, and thanks for wearing short skirts." And I went, "What?" It just threw me completely.
Like, to even make the comment. Like, you did that
It
for
was
my
okay.
benefit. Yeah. And that speaks directly to the imagery, the painting.
Yeah.
Women
Yeah.
are there to fulfill our fantasies.
Yeah.
Thanks for wearing the short skirt, Mandy. You tick the buttons for me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Shocking.
I'm surprised I didn't slap him.
I am, actually.
I think I was so shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, it takes a lot to shut me up. But,
I know. I remember, again, in a previous existence when I worked in welfare rights and housing, I worked my way up through the ranks, and I held a supervisor's post, and I was the first woman in the company to ever do that. And I moved from the office where I was based to a different office, and I was given the job of overseeing 3 teams. So I was given one of only 3 company cars in the business. The others went to directors, but because I had 3 teams in 3 different areas, I got the mobile supervisor's company car, and I had to go over to a different town to collect it. And the day I was supposed to go and get it, there was like, "Oh, it's gone into the shop to be fixed." I was like, nah. So a couple of weeks went by, and I still didn't have my company car. And so I created a fuss about this. It's like, "Where's my company car? I've got the job, and you promised me it's in the contract, you know, and all the blokes before me have had the company car. Where's my company car?" So instead of sending me over to get it from the office, they said, "Oh, the guy who like controls all the like the admin and the financing side of things in the cars, he's going to come over to talk to you." And I thought, I know exactly what's going on. So I went to my best friend's husband, and I said, "Can I borrow your car to go to work on Thursday?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." Because I knew that he had the exact make and model of the car that they were supposed to give me, which was a Cortina Estate. So not a little wee car, dirty, great big, like, station.
They were massive.
They were massive, weren't they? So I went to work really early. I got in half an hour before anybody else so that I could park my car right in the prime spot, right under the window of the meeting room where I knew the meeting was going to be. So we had the meeting, and we're in there, and this guy is being so effing patronizing towards me. And I just sat there, and I took it, and I took it, and I took it, and I said, "Okay, I've heard everything you've just said, and I think it's all bullshit." And he went, "What?" I said, "Just indulge me for 2 seconds. Stand up." I said, "What's that out there?" And he went, "What?" I said, "That silver car there with the nice black vinyl roof and, like, you know, newer plate on than the one you're going to give me." And he's like, I said, "What is it?" And I pushed him, and he said, "Oh, it's a car." I said, "What make and model is it?" "Oh, it's a Ford Cortina." I said, "That's the effing car I drove to work. Keys." And he had to give me the company car. It was like, you know, I'm not standing for it. And I'm afraid I've always been a bit like this because I've always seen it for what it is. And I've always tried to, but in doing so, in having to stand up for myself so much, it's it's uncomfortable and I don't want to have to do it. And it's not, I have to dig deep to behave like that. I have to go somewhere I don't want to go.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And
Mm.
so many instances throughout my job and my work and my career until I decided to go self-employed. Luckily, that was like 33 years ago, you know, and I created my own world because I was so fed up with the arena I was working in. So, you know, I get this. I get it, you know. So anyway, let's go back and see what's happening over in the PowerPoint. And the thing that really breaks my heart is I love art. I love art, you know. So when I see all this stuff, you know, I can really appreciate the craftsmanship of it, but it breaks my heart. So
it's the same in the, you know, I've got a degree in music, and it's the same in, you know, classical music. All of the composers are male.
Yeah.
And if the females wrote anything, it had to be guised under their husband's name.
Yeah.
Like Chopin, his wife wrote some amazing music.
Yeah.
And it's only recently, you know, they've actually credited her.
I know. And there's questions about Mackintosh and how much of it was actually his work and not his wife.
Yeah.
You know, it's all coming up, all these little rumors that have been going on. It's quite phenomenal when you scratch below the surface. So our roles in society over millennium. So if we women as a group or individuals were to stay safe and resist incurring the wrath of men, then we must be quiet, shut up and put up. And I know that we'd like to think that things are different for ourselves now, and we live in a more enlightened society, but it's just not the truth. We must suppress our voices, suppress our needs, suppress our desires, and be grateful for crumbs just to survive. And this is how we've existed for hundreds and hundreds of years. We were relegated to the role of incubators, decoration, object, and property, a thing to use, abuse, discard, and or trade. As people, we had absolutely no safety. And remember what Mandy was saying about chakras, our base chakra, and it's the root of our safety and security. Can you imagine what this has done to our base chakras, regardless of anything else, just our base chakra? We had, you know, we could be beaten by our husbands for speaking up, or, you know, boiling the porridge, or, you know, and there was no comeback whatsoever. There's a saying, isn't there, the rule of thumb. You've heard of the saying, the rule of thumb, and that meant that a man could beat his wife with a stick as long as it wasn't wider than the width of his thumb. And that was the law. So the 13th century definition of slave, a person who is the chattel or property of another. The modern Cambridge definition of a slave, it is generally accepted that the legal definition of slavery is provided by Article 1, brackets 1, of the 1926 League of Nations Slavery Convention, which reads, slavery is the status or condition of a person over whom any or all of the powers attaching to the right of ownership are exercised. So they're declaring there that slavery in 1926, slavery is, not was, the status. Slavery is the status. And the art world is always a good place to look as a reflection of society of the time. It shows us how people lived, how they dressed, activities they took part in, etc. But most of all, it reflects the popular thinking of the time, and going against it took power, visibility, money, and influence. And this is resources that women had in short supply and still do to this day. Our voices are still not being heard. And like I said, we do like to think that we're living in more entitled times. Yeah, throat chakra. Thank you, Mandy. It's true. This has affected our chakras, our aura, our, you know, our DNA at a deep, deep cellular level. And, you know, we do like to think that in the Western world, we are a little bit more enlightened, but you just have to kind of lift your head up and look at, you know, the other countries in the Middle East, etc., some of the African nations where we still have female genital mutilation, arranged marriages. You know, we can't just sit here and say it's okay because we aren't subjected to those things anymore. Those things are happening in our country. They are happening in our country. So
I remember as a teacher, and I only finished last year, but having to do the training about how to recognize girls who were, you know, being sort of groomed in a way, and told that they had to have this female genital mutilation done.
Yeah,
It's
it's
horrific.
appalling.
It's horrific.
Appalling. Yeah. You know, and this is it. So, as I said before, what happens to one sister happens to us all. So let's reconnect with our feelings from earlier, and you know, I can really reflect with mine. Remember when I asked you how it made you feel when you felt passed over, unheard, invalidated, etc. That's exactly how I felt with the car gate, if you want to call it. And this is because that is the link to understanding how historical or generational trauma works. Our feelings or emotions reflect our inner world. They are what motivate and drive our actions. So if we're not feeling safe, if we're not feeling protected, if we're not feeling powerful, that will motivate and drive our actions. So that's how we play small, self-sabotage, etc., etc. So emotions are energy in motion, emotions. Just as any simple single-celled organism will move towards food and away from poison, we, as a multicellular organism, do the same. If we like it, we go for it. If it hurts us, we shy away, hide, shrink, deflect, even alter our behavior or looks to appease or lessen our pain. And over time, this becomes ingrained into our cells and gets passed on. We adopt and express the behavior with or without understanding or seeing the cause. We don't know why we do what we do. We don't know why we play small. We don't know why we don't feel confident enough to go for that promotion, or we don't know why we feel funny when we go in competition with men and we can't keep up because we haven't got that testosterone. We have to do it on adrenaline and we get burnout. We don't understand it. We don't understand why we wear miniskirts. We just do because that's the fashion and that's the way it is. We don't understand that we're doing it to gratify men. And I know people say nowadays, oh no, I wear makeup to please myself. I wear nice clothes to please myself. You're kidding yourself. You are kidding yourself.
You've been programmed.
Yeah. So if you're okay with seeing images of women being raped or abused and the message of male dominance and oppression behind it, and it doesn't make you feel even the slightest bit uncomfortable, then you may have experienced something like this yourself and become dissociated. Your emotions are disconnected as a survival tactic. So this is what I've said. I have run this program before, and women have said to me, I don't see anything wrong with those paintings. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see it's just a myth. It's okay that the Jupiter came down as a bull and raped that woman because she was just a story. It's okay. So if you're still with me, then you'll be glad to hear there's a way to undo all this. And I'll get to that later in the training. But meanwhile, I do have more to show you. Because it's okay showing you all of that stuff from the past. So thanks for the history lesson. We've moved on since then, haven't we? You think so?
You would hope so, but
yeah, we would hope so. But I'm just about to burst that bubble as well. Sorry, ladies. Let's have a look at some more recent imagery. What have we and our mothers and grandmothers been subjected to? So if you don't believe in transgenerational trauma going back 200,000 years and beyond, you must be able to kind of make a connection between what your mothers and grandmothers have been subjected to, and therefore the way they have tried to keep you safe, the way they have, inverted commas, made you play small to try and train you to survive, train you to stay away from the pain, train you not to stand up for yourself, not to be noticed, so you bring down the wrath of men on top of you. So, quick question. What did the Western women do during the First and Second World Wars? Ran the whole fucking show. Sorry, pardon my French. I'll bleep that out later in iMovie.
No, you won't.
I know. We ran the whole show. We ran the whole thing.
We ran the world.
And actually did it extremely well.
Mm.
And the next question, how did society at large repay them after the wars? So I can go into the socio-political things that were at play about when the literature and the news and the general feeling after the wars that women had to go back into incubator mode to replace the generations that were lost, all the young men that were lost. They had to come out of their jobs and the factories and the roles that they were playing, go back into the home, so that the poor men that came back from the world wars had jobs to go to. And I appreciate that, but we had no choice. We had no choice. And if we did stand up for ourselves, we were social pariahs and we were ostracized. So I want you to look at this imagery, and I'm sure you're all very, very familiar with this kind of image. And these were all painted by a man called Gil Elvgren, who was very, very famous in the 50s for, he produced literally thousands upon thousands of these images. He was prolific. So remember, these women that he's portraying, you know, a scant 5-10 years before this, were working in munitions factories, flying planes, delivering goods, working the land, driving tractors, running hospitals, performing surgery, you know. And now look at them. They are incapable. They can't put up a deck chair. They can't paint a wall. Can't hammer a nail in the wall to hang up a picture. You know, they can't get off a plane without dropping their drawers. I mean, please. This imagery was so popular. It was on calendars, it was in posters, it was all over the place. We're pretty, but useless. And I mean, of course, a man wants to see a woman dropping her drawers, doesn't he? Playing to that male fantasy again.
I find that quite offensive.
I do. I know. And it, look at the imagery. It's, you know, the bloke with in the telephone booth, he's like, oh, bless her, you know, and the bloke's coming off the aeroplane there. Wow, great, nice view, you know, and the bloke in the truck, she stopped him in his tracks. It's just awful.
It makes you wonder about that really famous thing of Marilyn Monroe. She's on the grid and it's blowing her dress up.
The air vent, one of the most reproduced images of the 20th century. You know, and it wasn't just the paintings, it was the advertising, because you've got to remember, shortly after the war, we had magazines and stuff before, Edwardian times, Victorian times, but after the war, it really, really amped up a gear. We had, you know, better photography, etc., more gadgets, etc. So this is the kind of thing that we would see in magazines. Sooner or later, your wife will drive home. One of the best reasons for owning a Volkswagen. It's exactly what I was subjected to. Women can't drive. She's going to smash the car, you know. And I mean, this one, I love it. Wives, look this ad over carefully. Circle the items you want for Christmas. Show it to your husband. If he does not go to the store immediately, cry a little. Not a lot, just a little. He'll go. So circle all the quality Dormeyer appliances you want. I mean, it's just incredible, isn't it? Husbands, look this ad over carefully. Pick out what your wife wants. Go buy it before she starts to cry. I mean, are we really that pathetic? I've got to admit, I do love a gadget though. And this is like getting more in sort of late 50s, early 60s, because what happened after the war, when we were subjected to, you know, we lost our access to our own income, our autonomy, responsibility for ourselves. There was this phenomenon in the Western world of women going to their doctor for antidepressants. We became depressed as a species, or 50% of the species. We became heavily depressed. And these adverts appeared in magazines all over the place. And there were so many names for all the tablets. You can't set her free, but you can help her feel less anxious. So at a time when we were trying to be heard, we were then portrayed as somebody who needed pills in order to cope. So Ritalin was one of the most famous ones. Helps relieve chronic fatigue and apathy quickly. Acts in minutes. Unlike other antidepressants, Ritalin usually brings relief with the very first dose. You're being sedated.
They're using that now for ADD, aren't they? For kids who can't sit still and stuff.
Yeah. So you can imagine what it did to ordinary women. And the message here, along with other things, is would you seriously consider allowing someone who can't even cope with a few domestic chores run the office, the school, or the country? And this is not that long ago. And this is, you know, because domestic violence sells, apparently. So apparently, we women, we have to go out and store test for fresher coffee. That is the sum total of our raison d'etre in the new world. I don't even have words.
It's interesting shape on the on the product itself.
Oh yeah, it's not lost. Yeah, the actual baby powder looks like dildos. And I mean, the young girl there with the teddy bear and things, I mean, that is just appalling. Innocence is sexier than you think. Really? Innocence is sexy. So we get an irresistible clean baby smell grown up to be enough to be sexy. I mean, that's a contradiction. It's soft smelling, pure and innocent. It may well be the sexiest fragrance around. So apparently the sexiest thing is to smell like a baby. I'm just confused now. So this imagery is all getting newer and newer, more and more modern. But I remember things like this.
There's the Jean-Paul Gaultier one as well, isn't there, with her in the corset and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So it's anybody's guess here what they're actually advertising. Is it mixer taps, hobs, high heels, jewelry, coffee, or suits? It's literally anybody's guess. But the image sells whatever you want it to sell. Because men are the ones with the money and they're the ones with the buying power. They're the ones going out and buying the stuff. So you're selling them their dream. They'll see this image and go out and buy whatever it is you're selling. Of course, it's not just the pictures, but they are a good way of illustrating the subliminal programming we have been subjected to over millennia through the patriarchal system of dominance, objectification, fear-mongering, and lack of sovereignty.
Sass, I don't know if you know, but we can only see your thingy picture.
All right, okay.
We can't see you, my darling. That's better.
See you. I can see you. Can you see me? Oh. Right, so surely now we're in more enlightened times. It's okay. No, it's not that simple. So let me explain. When multiple generations of women have been subjected to repeated, systematic, and relentless persecution, it embeds in our cells and affects the vibrational frequency of our particles. That in turn affects every level and aspect of our energy systems. So here we are, busy swaying and cleansing without hitting the root of our problems. This stuff transcends all of our life experiences and traumas because their presence kind of sets us up for much of it. So, you know, we're born into this world with this skewed DNA that has been passed down and passed down and passed down and passed down to us. And I want to just say here that we can't help this. And if anybody knows me, you will know how much I adore my husband and how amazing he is and how brilliant he is. I am not a man basher. I'm just, you know, a system basher, you know, a society basher, because it doesn't serve us women. And it's not that I want to put the men down. I don't. They don't know what's going on. They don't know our experience. They don't understand. And that's not their fault. You know, they've got, like I said before, that's their own kind of trauma. They don't understand it just as much as we don't understand it, because it has become so ingrained and so normalized. And when I showed my husband these images and explained it to him, he said, my God, I had no idea. And I said, I didn't want him to feel bad about it. It actually made him feel even more supportive of what I do. And because he is absolutely so on board with what I do, because he knows as much as I do that when we can get the balance back between the masculine and feminine, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, the up and the down, the left and the right, the this and that, it will make a better life for everybody. But we can't expect the men to just wake up one day and say, oh, do you know what? I think we got it all wrong. You know, I think it's up to us to heal ourselves and show them, not to keep going cap in hand and begging them for a better experience, but to claim it for ourselves, not with a, I told you. It's not like that. You understand us on energy by now, to understand that all we want is for us to begin to really express our true soul essence, really be those living goddesses that we know we are, if only we looked a little bit below the surface. And in doing so, we can have a much better experience with the men in our lives, whatever that, wherever they come from, and whatever level they're at, you know, fathers, uncles, brothers, cousins, sons, neighbors, friends. It improves it for all of us, them included, you know. So only by going deep and releasing this stuff can we hope to ever create a reality that serves us on every level and express our true soul essence. We can never hope to activate our goddess energy while this stuff sits in ourselves, our DNA and our consciousness. And I often feel, I don't like to dwell on the past, but I often feel really sorry for, you know, my mom and my grandmother's era after the war. They had so much possibility and it was all just snatched away from them, you know. So we're going to make a start on our healing. But I hope you enjoyed that, Karen, and felt something shift in you there. So thank you on behalf of the planet and the collective consciousness. So those of you who are doing this at home, please don't think that, you know, it's you've just done it for yourself. It's not. You've done it for everybody. Any work you do on yourself impacts the rest of the world. And if you felt this activation has been a benefit to you over the last 3 days, or just tonight or yesterday or whatever, if any part of it has been benefit to you and you're interested in taking it further, we have a wonderful 5-week Fire Opal course for you. You knew it was coming. All of the points we've raised this week and more will be healed by you and your inner goddess, activated to a new level by working on several areas of your life and energy. We covered just one this week, the chakras. So we're not just doing the energy things, we're covering the areas of your life. We're going to go and explore exactly what is going on for you right now, and you know, holding your hand and guiding you while you learn how to heal it. You know, we're not the ones with the power, you are the ones with the power, and we want to gift you that power on this course. And beyond that, we have an advanced course to go even deeper into your power and connection by exploring more of your energy and light bodies on a multi-dimensional level, some of which are exclusive to women and have been dormant within us until now with the advent of the Aquarian age. Exciting times indeed. And Mandy and I, we are really excited about this, aren't we? What we're touching on and where we're taking this with you goddesses. This goddess activation is literally the tip of the iceberg, especially for Mandy and I. We have taken all of our experience, our skills, the whole kit and caboodle, our qualifications, and bundled them into creating these courses for people. And Mandy and I both regularly go into the Akashic records and check up on what needs updating. So you can think of it almost like the operating system of your computer. You know, we need to get rid of the malware and the spyware and the viruses and everything, but we also need to keep updating our operating system, which is our energy. So we bring you the energy, the channeled wisdom, and the Akashic records and more. Check out the links in the chat and the emails we will send you. So we've got some links to put in the chat, but we will be sending all the links out in the email along with the replay. And we are always here to answer any questions that you might have. So we'd love to have you with us as we all strengthen our individual goddess effect for increased connection, creation, and confidence as we enter this new age. Because I don't know if you've noticed, if you haven't noticed, that things are changing. We are entering a new age, and it's up to us to define that new age, not just to, you know, say, oh, well, we'll cobble this and that together from what we've already had, and sort of patch it up and put a couple of, you know, elastoplasts on it and see how we go. No, it is up to us to dig deep and create this new age that we're going into. And to be perfectly honest, it is actually up to us us more mature ladies, shall we say. We are the ones that are stepping into our power as we enter this age, to guide these things. We're not, shall we say, distracted by our fertility, shall we say. We're not just making this up. Mandy and I know, and we've explored this at great depth, we know that what happens to women when they go through the menopause and into this third age, that our ability to dig deep and manifest greater things for the world and for ourselves is there for us. And this is what I was talking about, some of the energy that which are exclusive to women. We know that there are some energy aspects that are exclusive to women because of, you know, the fact of our physical makeup, the fact that we are the ones that can create something from nothing, because we are the ones that excel at nurturing and just making beautiful things. And that's what we're going to be accessing a lot more. I hope you got all that, Karen, but don't worry, we'll send you all the gum from the bobbins in the email. Do you have any questions either about what we've just been talking about or anything that we've done so far in the activation?
No, I think I'm taking it all in still, really. Can I just check though? There is a day 4, isn't there? We're here tomorrow.
Yeah, we're doing a day
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yes.
And if you were interested in the 5-week course, we're actually starting on Monday.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So you
I would
can
need to
carry
know
on with
what
us.
kind of time commitments and everything, really. I think it's probably the details
yeah.
of what needs to
Yeah.
be done. So
Yeah.
I've got
Of course.
a lot
Yeah,
of other things.
that's why we sort of send it out with the email, just to explain what it's all about. Yeah.
So Monday evening at 7 o'clock for about an hour and a half for 5 weeks. And, you know, with the support in between as well. So
Yeah.
you've got time to do the stuff.
Yeah. Go at your own pace. You also work on what you want to work on, not what we say you should be working on.
Yeah.
And we guide you to explore what it all means for you. You know, so it's not we say you should do this, we say you should do. So we're going to teach you about the energy systems, but you're going to look at them from the perspective or the lens of what's coming up for you.
Yeah.
What about with regard to missing the lives? Because I know that I'm away here and away over the next sort of 3 weeks, where there are some that I might miss.
Replays always.
You get the recording.
You're all right
either
with
the same day
lives.
or the day
Yeah.
after.
There are workbooks, so whatever we cover in the live, there's you know, printed or, you know, digital format that you can work through. We also have the opportunity on a Wednesday night to actually do the work, because we know when we've signed up for things in the past that, you know, you sign up and you sort of like, oh yeah, and you don't actually do the work. So there is the optional Wednesday night sessions, which is just anybody can come and do the work. So we'll be in there, you know, you can ask questions, get clarification. There'll be other people in there as well working on whatever they're working on. So it's just kind of that gift of the space to do it and the container to do it, you know. And what you'll find,
the WhatsApp group as well, aren't we? So you can send a message.
Yeah.
You know, what about this? And one person will respond.
Yeah. And you also get that sort of bouncing around with the other people, you know. Oh, I tried this, and oh, have you looked at that? And oh, this was amazing. I didn't know that was going to happen, and things like that. So it just enriches your experience of it, you know. And when you start working with energy, it is a lifestyle choice. It's not about the 5 weeks at all. It's not about the 4 days. It's not about the Monday or the Wednesday. It's a lifestyle choice, and it gets easier the more you immerse yourself in it, and the more you kind of, when I say commit to it, I don't necessarily mean the time, but just say in your, you know, your conscious intention, yeah, I want to see some shifts in my life, and this is the thing that goes deeper, quicker and faster than anything else I've come across. I'm going to make it mine. You know, I've had a session this afternoon with a lady who I'm so thrilled with her. She's spent, I think, the last 7 years basically locked in her house. Not locked in, but, you know, unable to go out, anxiety, etc. And by adopting the energy work that she's doing, you know, she's making so much progress that previously she couldn't even contemplate doing. And, you know, she's come to the end of you know, the sort of 6 weeks of one-to-one sessions. And I'm like, oh, you know, you've done really well and you know how to do this. And she's like, no, I'm signing up again. I'm not letting this go. Now I've got this going and I've got the momentum going. There's no way I'm letting this go. And you know, and I mean, that's wonderfully gratifying for me, obviously, but not for my sake, for her sake.
It does change your life, doesn't it?
It does.
In
And
in a good way, you know. So
yeah. So and you'll be with us.
Is it? You had me.
We're infectious. We are infectious and contagious. I have to say.
2 for the price of 1.
It
Oh
is.
my God. Bargain.
It is. Yeah, I mean, 2 coaches for 5 weeks. Was it 97 quid?
97 quid, yeah.
Which is just like ridiculous. And I'm not trying to sell it to you, Karen. I'm just stating a fact. Honestly, you will join.
Take my money.
Yeah,
we just want it to be accessible for people, because we've paid thousands and thousands and thousands for courses.
Yeah.
And you know, that can be a barrier, and we don't want it to be, because we want to work with as many women as we can.
Yeah. And that's the thing, we want it to be accessible. And there's another course I run with another coach about looking at particularly like wealth and money possibilities and things, and we run that at a ridiculously low price, and everybody says there's so much in it, and it's like, yeah, we know, because we've paid the thousands of pounds to do the paperwork. But we don't want to exploit the people who need it. The people who need those type of courses can't afford the $9,000 and the you know what I mean. So for me, it's like, I don't understand that. I don't understand that. So I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with me, I don't know.
No, absolutely not.
I don't think there is.
Can I just ask one more practical question, please?
Yeah.
So it's a commitment to an hour and a half a week, but there are it's all right if we miss and there are replays. I would obviously this. With regard to kind of homework, what kind of time commitment would you say would be, please?
Well,
I'm asking simply because I have got the courses and stuff, so it's all kind of mounting up. So
well, you've done some energy work this week, haven't you? And you know the benefits it brings, because you can actually sway on it and ask yourself, have I shifted this? Have I shifted that? That's what you will be doing. So after this 4-day thing, do you really think you're going to stop doing energy work on yourself?
No.
And by doing the course,
I guess it becomes a bit of an addiction, though, does it? Because you can.
Yeah, it can be. But I tell you what it is. Once you start doing it, it doesn't just happen when you're doing the cleansing. The shifting carries on. And have I explained the difference between potential energy and kinetic energy?
Yeah,
I think I have.
And he says yes.
On Monday.
I can't remember.
Okay, right. Okay, I'll go through it again. I don't mind. So kinetic energy, like kinetic, it's what you've got going on. Okay, so if what you've got going on is challenges, problems, etc., stopping them is like trying to stop the Titanic when it's heading for an iceberg. It's got momentum going, so, and it is harnessing the universal law of momentum. So changing that is like by degrees. But what you do when you stop it, or you try and stop it, you kind of create potential energy. Now, potential energy is the realm of possibilities. It's where anything can happen. So what you're doing is you're going from kinetic energy to potential energy. And that's the thing that's addictive, because that is where anything can happen. And that's when you start to realize that, you say you've got a lot of other things going on. All of those other things you've got going on will benefit from you doing energy work. So yeah, it can be. You can
do it in little chunks over a series of the week anyway. And you don't need to worry about falling behind, because you'll always be able to do it at some point.
Yeah.
You know, and standing in the kitchen and releasing this or whatever.
I do most of mine when I'm dog walking. My dogs got used to me. I used to have 4 dogs, and they got used to me standing in the middle of a field with my arms in the air doing releasing. And we got to this part of the field, and if they got there before me, they learned to sit. It was just, dogs are so trainable. It's bizarre. And they would sit there and go, you can do your thing. And I'm like, what's the matter with the dog? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing the thing with them, yeah, and swaying backwards and forwards. I was just doing it in a little sort of like delve in the field. So everything you've got going on will automatically benefit from you doing energy work to release the resistances and the reversals that are holding you back. I can't say anything more than that, really.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think my concern was that, as much for you both, that I wouldn't want to sign up without full commitment.
Yeah.
So if it was going to be overwhelming, then I'd rather wait until the next time.
No,
Yeah.
we haven't. You've purposefully not overwhelmed it.
Yeah.
We
do give value, but what I want you to know that within that, you do what you can, because what you do will be absolutely perfect for what you need. That's how energy works.
For me, the concern is really is not about me per se. Was for you two to say, I'm not going to sign up and then not do the work and show up, because then
we understand.
It's respectful to you both, isn't it? So I want to go fully committed and do it properly. So okay, that's good.
We get it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You can release the resistance to that.
She's off. Don't turn into someone we know.
Yeah. Karen, it's your decision.
Okay.
We're doing it, and we're there, and it's entirely up to you, whether you want to do it or not.
I think I said to you, Sat and I had a chat briefly on Monday morning, because I've been haranguing her since I first met her, going, I need to know more about what you do. But I think very much, no, I don't think, I believe that things and people come into your life at the right time.
Absolutely.
When you need it.
And
sometimes you miss the opportunity because you're not aware of it, but things have been coming in to me in this kind of arena for probably the last maybe 6 or 7 months.
Right.
And I believe it's time.
And the thing is, you can always come back to it. So I mean, I know when I first started doing this stuff, I do the ours was monthly, wasn't it, Sass? And it'd take me a month to do something. So it doesn't matter. You do it at your own pace. And you can always come back to it and always revisit it.
And everybody does revisit it. I mean, I just said Mandy and I were doing some clearing this afternoon, and we've both been doing this for years. There's always stuff to do. It's about learning how. It's that's what it's more about. It's the how, not necessarily whether you do it, but that you understand the how, so that you've always got it. It's a tool for life, I wish I'd learned it sooner, but I'm not going to go there. I learned it when I needed to learn it.
The thing is, this kind of stuff that we're doing now wasn't really available 10 years ago.
Wasn't.
When I needed it 20 years ago.
No, and this kind of thing was definitely not available. Definitely. And this is the thing I love. This is the sign of how we're entering more into this Aquarian age, how things are. We are evolving as a species on the conscious level. That's our last frontier, if you like. So, of course, as we evolve, the tools and the things come up that we need, Karen, it has been so lovely to see you again. And like you said, we had a lovely chat on Monday morning, didn't we? When we finally coincided, when our planets finally aligned, it was beautiful. And we live not far away from each other, about 4 or 5 miles away from each other.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, so I know we're going to see each other on all kinds of things, and we've got some social events coming up. I'll let you know.
Yeah, lovely. And to everybody that's watching, on replay as well, if you've got any questions,
absolutely.
You can find me. I'm Mandy Morris, and I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook and IG and TikTok. I think on IG, on TikTok, I'm Soul Mind Connection. But
all the emails come out. I've got our social icons on the bottom. And it's got the ones for both of us. It's got your Instagram.
Please message us. Don't think you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love talking about this stuff, don't we?
Yeah.
Right, I am going to go walk my doggies.
Oh, lucky you. I'm going to make some food.
Thank
Okay,
you both so very much.
Lovely to see you. Thank you,
Take care.
Karen.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a lovely evening.
Bye.